Hi, I'm MOYA-SMITH. You're in the stream. Today, Native Lives Matter at Standing Rock and beyond. An anti-pipeline protest in the U.S. state of North Dakota has sparked a national social movement for Indigenous rights.
He will only listen to us and understand our struggles for the water, for the benefit of everybody. We wouldn't be in this spot. That's all we're here, is to protect the water and the sacred integrity of this land and our relationship to each other.
For months, Native Americans in North Dakota have fought the construction of an oil pipeline they say threatens their water supply and sacred lands. Now the standoff at Standing Rock is boiling over. Last week, police in riot gear and armoured vehicles raided a protest camp. Demonstrators blocked a road and burned vehicles. More than 140 arrests were made. New clashes broke out Wednesday on the banks of a creek near the main protest camp. With tensions running high, President Barack Obama has weighed in for the first time, revealing federal officials could change the pipeline's route.
My view is that there is a way for us to accommodate sacred lands of Native Americans. And I think that right now the Army Corps is examining whether there are ways to reroute this pipeline.
So that's a possibility. Rerouting the pipeline would be a major victory, but the Standing Rock protest has already made history. More than 200 tribes have converged there in the largest Native American gathering in more than a century. So what is next for Standing Rock and the movement it may well have sparked? MOYA-SMITH is the culture editor for Indian Country. ERYN Wise is the media coordinator for the Sacred Stone Camp at Standing Rock. HOUSKA is National Campaigns Director for the environmental group Honor the Earth. And Sterling Holy White Mountain is a fiction writer and essayist. It's good to have you here, everybody. Let me just share with you something from Tara, your Twitter page here. Let me just play this for you. Today we experience police protecting and serving the interests of Dakota Access LLC. Look at this video.
Move south on the roadway. Move south. Do not approach.
So there's that. And then let me just show you one more thing here. This is from Jacqueline. She says the violent response is unprecedented. Use of dogs on women and children. Lack of federal insight. Where is the Justice Department? ERYN, your hand is like this over your mouth as you're watching that. What is it like to be out there at Standing Rock at the protest?
I think my hand was over my mouth because in that clip from Tara's Twitter page, it's a video of one of the members of our youth council being beaten by police trying to protect his prayer stick. So every time I see footage of that, I just get really upset because it's my kids, yeah.
Right. So you see that and you're thinking, what?
I see that and I'm thinking, why are people not more cognizant of the fact that there are children on the front lines fighting for their right to water and fighting for their future children to have water as well? And why has the Obama administration not stepped up and shown more care about the fact that there, could be their own children out there, that Sasha and Malia could be out there right now fighting for their right to clean water, because that's about the age of our youth council.
How dangerous is it to be protesting at Standing Rock right now, Simon?
Well, from what I've seen on the front line, I mean, just like ERYN said, it doesn't matter if you're young, if you're old. They're attacking anybody. And I think I really want ERYN to say something about how she's being targeted in Bismarck, that going into town, into Bismarck, is dangerous for her. And that's the closest town that she's been in, or that's the closest big city. And the fact that she walks around town and has to look over her shoulder while people are calling her name just to see if that is ERYN, it's a dangerous environment, whether you're in the front or if you go to Bismarck.
ERYN, can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I regularly go into Bismarck to buy supplies for the youth council. I do live with about 18 youth, and they go through food like crazy. So I'm always up in Bismarck getting food and snacks and supplies. And there have been more than one occasion where I've been walking in Walmart or Target, even just grocery stores, and people will just walk by and say, hey, ERYN, just waiting for me to acknowledge them. And when I turn around thinking that maybe I had met them at some point in camp, instead they just kind of like laugh at me and then continue walking without telling me who they are. I've actually stopped one guy and asked him if I had met him and apologized for not remembering his name. And he just kind of smirked again and just walked away. So I do have people that are regularly following me and looking for my information. I know that they know what my vehicle looks like, and they know that I work with the Youth Council. I do have a lot of people that regularly write to us to tell me that, you know, my kids are being watched. And that's just something I guess I've become used to here in Standing Rock.
Sterling, let me show you some pictures. This is from protester Cara Gonzalez. She sent these pictures to us just a little while ago. When you see these pictures, what is going on here? This is about a pipeline that is going through land where the people are protesting about maybe this may not be the safest place for oil to go. And then you're seeing pictures like this. How do you unpack this? How do you understand what's going on here?
Well, I mean, I asked myself the same thing I asked myself when I was the weekend that I was out there, and I was at the rally in Bismarck on September 9th, I believe it was, and the police were out there separating the rally goers from the Capitol building, and I asked myself how we got to this point where Indigenous people, specifically, you know, in this case, Lakota, Dakota and Nakota people, are protesting an oil pipeline that is running across land that they never ceded to the United States. Like, how do we get to a point where state and county police are committing brutalities, I guess you would say, and endangering people's lives on land that does not, that according to treaty does not actually belong to the U.S.? I asked myself how we got to this point.
Yeah, they've been doing it for 100 years, more than 100 years. They've been doing it since Columbus landed. They've always come with some excuse why it's land that we don't need anymore and that they need for civilization or for some public good. So this has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. This is just the version of it in 2016. If we go back a century, we have the Wounded Knee Massacre, and you have Native Americans who are statistically more likely to be killed by police right now being threatened by police. And that's frightening. So here's the demographic who is most likely to die at the hands of police. And then you see these images coming out, and it is the aggression and the full military might of police on innocent and unarmed men, women, and children.
Tara, I want to play you something. This is from Julie FEDORCHAK, and she's the North Dakota Public Service Commissioner, and she's talking about engagement of Native communities in what happens with this North Dakota Access Pipeline. This is what she has to say. I'm curious as to what you would say back to her. Have a listen.
The Standing Rock tribe did not participate in our public hearings or, quite honestly, at any point throughout our 13-month review process. Here's the situation, though. We notified the tribes. We had a personal call go out to the tribes urging them to participate, and we had a hearing 45 minutes, and they didn't attend, nor did they proceed to provide us with any additional information after the fact about what their concerns are.
Tara, you would say what back to her?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that commissioner has actually looked at the court case and the actual legal filings at issue. Everything she just said is absolutely not the case. The tribe has been engaged in the process for the past 2 years, trying to participate and trying to voice their concerns that this pipeline was rerouted from Bismarck, a largely white community, to go half a mile north of the reservation. Somehow it was a concern for Bismarck's drinking water, but it didn't matter if it went through Standing Rock. That's the reality, and they've been heavily engaged in the process. And the reality is right now, as it stands in the United States, you can do tribal consultation and you can meet all those requirements and check all those little boxes, but because we don't have free and informed consent, you can say no as the tribe and they still get to run over your rights. This pipeline went through without an environmental impact statement. That's the issue here. I mean, that's not just a tribal concern. That's an issue for all people that are concerned about the safety and, the contamination of their drinking water. We should be doing an environmental impact statement, a full stringent review of any 1,200-mile pipeline that has multiple water crossings going through multiple sources of water. There's 17 million people that live along the Missouri. So for her to say that they weren't engaged in the process and that somehow this is like, totally okay, or to even suggest that there's a reroute that's gonna, somehow solve this, there needs to be a full environmental review. That's what needs to happen.
Lauren Howland, who is in North Dakota right now, she sent us some video from the protest, literally in the last hour or so. Have a look to see what she said and why she's out there protesting. Have a listen.
We were telling them that we were praying for them and praying for their kids and protecting them, and that this is our water and their water as well, so we're protecting them and not being asked to do it. We're not being paid to protect them like they're being paid to protect the pipeline, We're protecting their generations far down the road as well as ours, because if this pipeline breaks, that's all Americans affected, not just Native Americans. I'm protecting you guys and your family right now, and the people that are watching this, we're protecting them.
So, ERYN, that's your little sister right there, out
that's my
there
little
protesting. She's reminding everybody what this is about, because you see these images of the police and the protesters, and there's a standoff, and you see the arrests, and sometimes you forget what was the original protest about. Where are we, Simon, with this in terms of the pipeline is still being built?
Right, yeah, it hasn't stopped.
It hasn't stopped.
Right. So the situation is escalating. It's escalating because they've already desecrated sacred sites. And then the other day, they were threatening the burial sites of 2 individuals. And I mean, I think it's important to notice that people are getting shot in the face with these rubber bullets and with beanbags. Tara herself nearly got hit in the head with one of them. And it's fair to say that they're just firing and trying to hit, and it's indiscriminate fire to the point where they nearly shot Tara right in the head and in the face. I mean, they're not just trying to subdue somebody by shooting them in the thigh. They're going for the head.
I want to share something with you here. This is from Ishki. Ishki says, the fight for basic human rights in the Indigenous community has never died down, not since the first Europeans set foot here. So if we're looking at this Standing Rock protest and the ripples, are you seeing a bigger movement, Sterling? Are you seeing something that is impacting all of America right now?
I hesitate to call it a bigger movement. I think it's a really significant moment. I think it's will be the significant moment for a while. But this is also part of a much larger continuity. This resistance to various colonialism in its various forms has been taking place for centuries, as we've already said. But I think it's really important to keep in mind that while the protests and the outcome of the pipeline situation are obviously hugely important, that I really think we need to frame this situation in the largest frame we possibly can. And I really think that frame is is the frame of tribal sovereignty and the ways in which our sovereignty has been limited by Supreme Court decisions and congressional law, and the reasons, and it's because of those things and because of this history of colonialism that we're dealing with that we now have state and county police that are on treaty land that according to the United States is no longer Indian land, but I mean that's not necessarily our perspective.
Sure. Tara, do you see it that way? ERYN, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think I think that this particular issue has provided a means for Indigenous rights to be brought to a larger narrative. It's been brought to a larger audience, and people are realizing that these things are happening to Indigenous people in 2016. They're realizing, hey, there's these treaty rights, we're still violating them in 2016. Hey, there's this thing called, sovereign nations still being run over in this modern era. So I think that although it is a specific issue of the Dakota Access Pipeline, it's brought to light this larger narrative of brutality and the running over of Indigenous rights. And, I do think it's also showing specifically the relationship of North Dakota to Indigenous people. Like Simon mentioned, these police officers were trying to hurt people. It was not trying to subdue the masses and push back the crowd. It was instead me going out there and telling them, telling the police officers, did you sign up to do this? Did you sign up to hurt Native American women and children because you just maced teenage girls in the face? That happened. And when I was saying those things, I could see eyes cast aside, and then I saw a police officer take aim directly at my head, and I ended up being pulled back, and the round exploded right next to my face. I mean, that is a very real situation, and that's a narrative that's being shown now around the world, that these things are happening to Indigenous people, that the conversation still hasn't changed since the Europeans first set foot on these shores, that this is still ongoing.
I agree.
ERYN,
can I just jump in and say,
please.
I think that this is not just the movement, I guess, about what's happening here in Standing Rock. I think this is a calling card to all non-natives to let them know that Indigenous people are coming back for their land. We're coming back for our languages. We're coming back for our cultures. We're coming back for our sacred sites and our rights. And, before, we've been kept under the thumbs of our oppressors for so long that a lot of us have kind of fallen away from being the warriors that we once were, but we're saying no more, and we're stepping up and we're taking it back. This is going to be a bigger movement. This is going to continue outside of this movement, whether, Dakota Access realizes what they've done or not. They've woken up, Turtle Island to the fact that, we have power and we're reclaiming it. Also, I did want to clarify that, there weren't just 2 graves up there. They were parked on the graves of Matilda Gaplin and Louisa DeGray Van Solen and Alma Perkins. So that's 3 women. 2 of them are famous here in Standing Rock. Matilda was the only woman to sign the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868, and Louisa was the first teacher in Standing Rock. Next to them were buried one of Charles Parkins, that was Alma Parkins' husband, and their 11 children. So, I mean, there are multiple graves up there. They want to talk about there being only 2, but there is definitely more, and they desecrated over 27 graves in September, and they're going to continue to do it, and we're going to be the people that are there to stop them.
The number of the graves that are going to be desecrated are going to continue unless this stops. But I think what people need to understand is that our resistance isn't new. Their awareness of our resistance is new. Social media has brought our resistance that has been there since Columbus landed here and invaded and raped and murdered. Our resistance is older than this country. And I think when people say, well, why are certain things in Indian country a big deal now? Well, it's because they are only learning that we survived their founding fathers, that we survived Columbus and Jackson and Abraham Lincoln and westward expansion and manifest destiny. We survived all of these things. But I totally agree with ERYN and Tara also in that this is a Native American issue because of the Fort Laramie Treaty, but it's also, people are beginning to realize that this is an issue about clean water. So it may be Standing Rock right now, but when will it be their own community? When will it be a pipeline through their home or maybe their grave sites? But I don't really think they're going to run any pipelines through any white grave sites anytime soon, or they're going to desecrate any white sacred sites. But they feel like they can do that to Native Americans because they've been doing it for so long.
I mean, you did mention Bismarck earlier on in the program.
Yeah.
Bismarck was an area which was going to have, the pipeline was originally going to go through Bismarck.
Oh, no, they said, send it to the Indians. Yeah, don't threaten our water.
Tell us about Bismarck and what happened with the community in Bismarck, and how did it end up going where it's currently going?
Simply white privilege. They just said, send it toward the Indians. That's it. That's all it was. And I know that sounds really simple, but it is that simple. They just said no, and then they moved the pipeline towards Standing Rock.
I think it actually is more than that, though.
They cited concerns about the contamination to their drinking water. That's what Bismarck did. They said that this would pose a large threat of contamination to our drinking water, and so they moved it downstream half a mile north of the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, which is the only drinking water source of the Standing Rock Sioux people. Somehow it was not okay for Bismarck, but it was totally fine when it went through Indian country, when it was the natives' water on the line. And that's a reality. I mean, we're sitting in a time now where, just like he said, people think that this is somehow new. They think that these issues are somehow new. And why are you so upset now? No, we've been upset this whole time. We've been fighting these things this whole time. But instead, we've got the Cleveland Indians all over every national TV outlet. The actual Indians in Standing Rock are completely on. Where are they? You know what I mean? Where are they in the mainstream narrative? Most people are not following this story. Social media is following this story because social media has given us the avenue and the opportunity to actually voice what's really happening. You want to talk to Indigenous people? Go online. You can talk to thousands of them all over the world.
Yeah, you want to be an Indian or pretend to be an Indian until it's time to get maced or beat up by the police. So if you want to dress up and wear your mascots, feel free to come to Standing Rock.
Yeah, those are the
and get maced.
Indians.
You know, I mean that's the reality. You're wearing your fake Pocahontas costume, but you know what? The reality is when you put that on, if you're really a Native person, you're getting maced in the face.
So what I'm hearing, guests. Yeah, go ahead, Sterling. Go ahead.
My hope. I mean, it's really good to hear everybody talking about this issue of tribal sovereignty, because we just don't discuss it enough, and if we don't push that issue, Americans are not going to push that issue, because frankly Americans don't understand it in the first place, and we have to be the ones to do that. But I also believe that we have to take it beyond just saying like this is sovereignty or this is an issue of sovereignty or abrogated treaties. Like I think we need to move into somewhat more specific realms. Like, well, how is it that the land that was the 200,000 plus acres of Standing Rock and Cheyenne River reservation land was flooded in the process of creating Lake, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say the name, I'm going to say Oahe, Lake Oahe, and how is it that Congress, that this land that is apparently federal land that the pipeline is supposed to be crossing right now, how is it that Congress says that that land actually belongs to the federal government? You know, well, a huge number of the issues that are going on in Indian country right now, which includes this exact piece of land, which includes the land at Oak Flat, which includes Glacier National Park, which is like a half mile behind me, is the Lone Wolf v. Hitchcock decision from 1903.
So Sterling, I'm going to stop you there because we've got an international audience, and I want to broaden it out just a little bit and take us to Canada. But picking up on the point that you're making and picking up on the Standing Rock protest, what I'm hearing you say, Guess, is this movement was already there.
Yeah.
Okay. But social media has amplified it, and also that message is going beyond the US. Have a listen to Kim Talbot here. She is in Edmonton, Canada.
The Standing Rock movement to protect the water and land from the pipeline is building in part on momentum gained with the Idle No More movement, founded in Saskatchewan, Canada in 2012 by 4 women, 3 Indigenous and 1 non-Indigenous. Women are also at the center of what is happening at Standing Rock. As an Indigenous feminist, I see protecting the land as part of a broader movement to protect the people, the health and integrity of our bodies. It's not an accident that Indigenous women are at the center of these anti-imperialist to anti-racist movements.
Do you feel, ERYN, that there's something that's happening in Standing Rock, amplified by social media, that can't be stopped, that it's blowing up now, and people will recognize a tiny minority in the US that has not had enough attention?
Yeah, I absolutely do think that people are going to start paying more attention to us, especially because of social media. But even just you saying that in that moment, the tiny minority, you think about the Indigenous people of this country that suffered through a genocide committed on them by the United States government. And, you know, the fact that we're even getting a modicum of acknowledgement for what we're doing and the rights that we are reclaiming and the land that we are fighting to protect. Just, you know, even having that like tiny sliver, a glimmering hope of people being like, oh yeah, we might pay attention to you now is kind of, you know, I guess it's rewarding, but it's also kind of a backhanded compliment in that we've been doing this for so long.
Let me just show you all something that I saw just this week, which is drone footage of the pipeline being constructed, not paused, still happening. I'm just going to show you that. Have a look at the video, because even though as the protests are happening, people are being arrested, there's friction with the police, this pipeline is continuing to be built. Simon, I'm going to ask you to prognosticate now.
Sure.
Will this pipeline be moved?
Well, hopefully it'll be stopped. We want it to, because again, if you just redirect it, again, pipelines leak.
Right.
And I mean, so we know that this is going to contaminate
with your
somewhere.
Pragmatic realist head on, will it be stopped?
I don't think so.
All right.
Well, that's why we are the ones
That's being
that are
pragmatic.
stopping it.
All right. Guess. Simon, ERYN, Tara, Sterling, thank you so much for your insight today. We really appreciate it. We're out of time for our conversation, but I do want to tell you about what we're doing next week on the stream. We're going to have some special US election coverage, and that's coming on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, of course. We will have a town hall of American viewers and people who have immigrated to the US. So they will be talking to us on Monday and Tuesday with some hot topics. We also have several watch parties that you can be part of on Facebook Live. So check out our coverage at StreamAlex or stream.aljazeera.com/StreamAlex. We will be all about the US elections from an international viewpoint, from a domestic viewpoint, so don't miss us. That will be the stream online, offline, on multi-platforms next week as we head into the US elections. Thank you to our guests for today. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Take care, everybody.